Hey everyone, welcome back to Three and Out. I am your host Ryan Kieran. This is Ryan Spags. We are waiting on Pat Lane to hop in. He should be here any minute. But for now, Spags, how you doing, pal?
I'm doing good, man. It's good to talk to you. It's been a while. We chatted
Yeah,
a
it's
little
been a
bit
minute.
post draft, but I was seeing you once a week
Yes,
during the
sir.
draft, so it's good to see you again.
Good to see you too, pal. How's everything been?
Good, man. Good.
Good.
Just been
Good.
running around like a madman, getting ready to go to. I'm going to New York Sunday for the game, so
Oh,
I'll be up
nice.
there in the press box. So yeah, that'll be a good experience.
Nice.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
So if you guys aren't, be sure you're following Spags on Twitter at Ryan_Spags for live thoughts from the game.
Oh man,
You got a big hockey game tonight, right?
I do. Yep, and the compressor broke, so a little bit
Beer
of a
league,
last
beer
minute
league
schedule
championship.
change. Yeah, so going for the three-peat tonight. If you don't see me on Twitter, it means we lost. So.
There you go. Everyone wishing Spags luck. All right, let's get into it while we wait for Pat, because I know again you're gonna have a hard out tonight, so you can get to that game. So we're gonna start with trivia once Pat gets here, but we'll get into the recap while we're waiting on him. So let me get the banner up here. So obviously Patriots lost 17-16 week 1 to Miami. Mac Jones, great debut, 29-39, 281 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. He had 1 sack. It was the first play of the game when he forgot what football was and just spiked it backwards. And then 102.6 QB rating. So great performance. Spags, as someone who you were the first adopter of the Mac train once he was in New England. So what did you feel like watching him?
I think it was just more of what we've seen. I think the more and more you see him, the more and more you throw at him. I think he just continues to be able to, adapt and learn and grow on the run. I think, it's not talked about enough because obviously they lost, and right, there's no moral victories, especially here in New England. But I think when you look back on this, and you kind of put it in perspective, that's a top 5 defense. And Brian Flores gave him a lot of credit in his post game, right? He said, we challenged him, we gave him tons of looks, tons of different pressures, and he handled everything they threw at him, right? I mean, he was getting hit all night long. He stood in there like a veteran, delivered some strikes. I tweeted out today, I think the best, obviously the throw to White was just, I mean, that was like vintage 12, right? Like we've seen that for years. But I think his best throw, and it was actually pointed out by one of my followers, I didn't even really think of it. It was like early in the third. It was like 2nd and 15, and he got absolutely pounded, I think by Adam Butler, and stood in there and threw an absolute rope to Aguilar. So you just you see the little things, the more you kind of dive into that game, and I guess look around the loss at his performance, considering that was his first real action. Super impressed. I don't remember a rookie ever playing that well in their first game, like that efficiently,
Right. And what really excited me as someone who, obviously I was down on Mac at the draft, became cautiously optimistic throughout.
No,
Training camp
that
and
night you were
preseason.
all in. You were all in that night.
Yeah, you're right. Mac Jones fan extraordinaire. Direct all questions to my Twitter handle. But so what really encouraged me from week 1 was he had that throw. I want to say it was second quarter to Jakobi. It was that kind of deep pass, and he lofted it, and he could have put some on it. He could have lofted it, but Jason McCourty ends up coming in. It was a nice play. Throw was on the money, just hung up long enough that J-Mac could get back in the play and break it up. And you see, that's kind of where it's like, okay, he's kind of testing what he can and can't get away with. If he puts a little zip on that pass, that's a big game, maybe even a touchdown if Jacoby's able to withstand what's probably a diving tackle by J-Mac. And then you see him come back. That throw you mentioned, a throw to Aguilar later, you see him come back, and when he's in those similar types of throws, he's putting zip on it. He's putting more on it. He said, okay, I can't get away with that at this level. Defensive backs are too fast, they're too talented. I know that I need to get this ball in here if I'm going to have that throw because it's only there for a split second. And then he completed that type of pass 3 more times throughout the game. It seemed like that first series and even that second series, he kind of had to remember what football was. Again, he spiked it backwards. He had a couple of ugly throws. He looked overwhelmed. You could see that he wasn't really comfortable with the speed.
Yeah. I mean, and you can only go up from there, right?
Right. So. And then he did. And that was what was so encouraging was he from there, it was like play to play. He exponentially got better. It's like he took a couple plays in to learn what he had to do, and then it was like, okay, I do this now. Now I'm just good. And
I think obviously,
go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Obviously, you're going to see some ups and downs as the season goes. No rookie's going to have a wire-to-wire great season. But the fact that, as you mentioned, there's a talented defense, it's a really tough scheme to be facing in your first career start. The fact that he was able to make improvements, not just hopefully from last week to this coming week, but within that same game, from drive to drive, play to play, he was learning what he couldn't do and improving is just extremely encouraging.
And the other thing too about the arm strength too, like that was a flaw in him coming out, right? Like he didn't have the best arm, right? He always had, the touch and the ability to make timing throws and operate efficiently, like in the intermediate game. But I think it's gotten stronger since he's gotten here. And we know it takes a year or two to really get into your NFL body. So I think this time next year, like I tweeted out in the preseason, like he looked that good. Like imagine what this kid's going to look like in a year, 2 years from now, if he continues on, this trajectory of continuing to develop. They got a really good quarterback. And I think, there's mixed reviews, right? Like that's a tough loss. It's a divisional loss. It could come back to bite them down the stretch. But I think we're all, at least they're not competing for a Super Bowl. I've said they're probably a year or two away really from being true contenders. Like that's an important game, even though you lost, because it gives your quarterback, it gives your fan base something, to hope for, to build on, gives them some confidence going forward. So,
and we're going to touch on kind of that, what your outlook is for the season a little bit later. So I'm going to skirt that response, and we're going to get into kind of more negative points of this game. Obviously, the fumbles and penalties, just absolutely good. There's 3 unnecessary roughness, 2 fumbles. There were 4 total fumbles in the game. The one, again, being the Mac Jones sack because it was recovered, but spiking the ball backwards, obviously that's not going to happen probably ever again. First time I've ever seen that, really, period. And then Jonnu gets flipped while he's in air and ends up losing the ball mid-flip. But that, especially, that Damien one, you fumble it in the goal line, in the red zone with the game on, you're going to lose the game. That's just what's going to happen. It's unfortunate, uncharacteristic timing.
Yeah, and then Stevenson too, which was so weird because, and someone said it today, like he was dealing with a dislocated thumb, right? And they still opted to play him over J.J. Taylor, who I think was, if not like other than like Mac Jones and Judon, who you saw in spurts, was the best player in the preseason, most consistent. That spark you need offensively, and he's inactive. And I'd be curious to see what happens Sunday if Stevenson's even active or if he even gets touches, because I don't think he saw the field after, or he did actually, and then he got blown up on a 3rd and short.
Yep.
And
then
we got bailed out by the roughing the passer on that low hit from Roberts. The other thing too from negatives, like obviously it's easy to harp on the penalties, but I think the secondary, and this is a team that loves to play man. They pride themselves on that because they've had that elite shutdown corner really for the last 10 years. And when you don't have Gilmore, right, you're number one. Your number 2 becomes your number 1. And I think JC's a solid player. Like he's a top 8 cornerback in the league, right? Can he be that number 1? Can he consistently shut down guys like we saw Gilmore do to DeAndre
There's
Hopkins?
There's a difference between being like a CB1 and like the CB1. Like
exactly.
Stephon Gilmore is one of the 5 or 6 like the CB1s in the game where no matter what, you're just best receiver, shut him down, and he's going to more often than not. JC is a CB1 who can. He can be your best corner, and your defense can be good. Your secondary can be good. Your pass defense can be good, but he's still going to get beat from time to time.
Yeah, and I think that's a problem for them going forward. And if I don't know what's going to happen with Gilmore. Obviously, he's out till week 7, week 8. So
at least week 7.
That's a big flaw in this team. And like I said, the way they've ran their defense the last 10 years, the reason they've been so good is because they've had the corners to be able to do that. And Jalen Mills made a nice play on Albert Wilson, that ball in the end zone where he kind of, reached out and deflected, but he did get burnt on that. It was a little underthrown. It was kind of to the outside instead of the inside. Yep. So I guess more of luck on that than anything, but that's a true hole. And I've been big on Jawan Williams. I want him to kind of get an opportunity. I think that's a guy who's labeled as a bust, but he really hasn't had the chance. And right now is his chance to kind of show he can be an outside guy because of his length and size. And he still can't find snaps. And I think he was PFF's lowest graded, and, take your stock and whatever that means. But he wasn't good Sunday from the naked eye. And people that graded him had him the worst defender on the Patriots. So that's a big, big flaw for them going forward. And I think the secondary is the reason that they lost that game. I thought they got decent pressure. They obviously couldn't stop the run at times when they needed it. But you saw Tua, who's an average quarterback. I'll give him average. Like they made so many plays in space, and for a team like the Dolphins with Waddle now and Parker on the outside, and then when they get Fuller back, that's a team where you can't give them space.
Right. And that is one takeaway, and I'll segue this here. Even if one game is any indication, it looks like you have your QB of the future more than the Dolphins have their QB of the future. So that's a positive takeaway. give me, outside of what we've already talked about, give me one positive takeaway and one negative takeaway from this game.
One positive, and like I said, I don't want to touch on Mac too much, right? I think one positive, I did like what I saw from the receivers, right? I think that was a much big upgrade from what we've seen, right? I think a lot of those plays, right? A couple to Bourne, a couple to Meyers were negated by penalties. That block in the back from Shaq Mason late down the stretch, that was a great route by Bourne, who ended up, catching it on a stop and turn it into a 15-yard play from his shiftiness. We haven't seen anybody that'll be able to do that. And Aguilar too, right? A guy who had one catch in the preseason. People started to doubt him. He was the best receiver at camp.
He was their best weapon yesterday, just overall.
He was really good. So I think that was a plus, right? I mean, you'd obviously like to see a little bit more from the tight ends, but I think when Brown went down, they knew they had a hole there, and Miami was kind of exposing them, that they needed to, have them kind of chip in a little bit in pass pro and run blocking, so they maybe not were so much of a threat with the ball in their hands. But I think considering what they've got at the wide receiver position the last 3 years, that was a big positive for them Sunday.
Absolutely. What about negatives?
Like I said, the secondary, right? I think the O-line, I mean, aside from David Andrews, it wasn't good. Shaq Mason had a really tough day. You lost Brown, who he's dealing with that calf strain, and that's something he's dealt with in Oakland and couldn't find time on the field, right? So who knows how bad that is. And I think that's a tough, the swing tackle, right? I guess you can bump on Wenu outside and play Durant inside or kind of flip-flop those guys, but the line, which was supposed to be the strength of their team. And like I said, I don't want to beat up too much because I think Miami has an elite front seven. And like I said, they made things difficult for Mac and them in terms of, scheming up some different types of pressures and looks. But the O-line, which, going in was probably their strongest unit on the team, I thought struggled at times. Mac got hit way too many times.
Absolutely. And we're going to pull in Pat. Hey, Pat, how you doing tonight?
What's going on, guys? How's it going?
Hey, how's your ice cream social?
Oh, it was a lot of fun. Craziness, but it was fun.
All right. So Spags is obviously on a bit of a time clock here. So we're just going to jump in where we are. We're at one positive, one negative takeaway from the game today, or the game on Sunday. What'd you have?
Positive for me was just the way Mac looked. I mean, like thanks, appreciate you. He looked great. I mean, he looked better than I expected him to look, to be completely honest with you. Just the way that he was driving the ball down the field. I think PFF charted four big play throws, which I was excited about. And again, it wasn't all perfect, but he was making the right reads. He was getting the ball out, and that's the big thing. That's the thing that you want to see him do. So I was excited about that. And then I would say, obviously, the negative for me is the mistakes, right? So obviously the fumbles, that's clearly what takes center stage, but the penalties too were inexcusable. And do I think they got screwed on some? Sure. Do I think that the Harris touchdown that got called back was basically the exact same play as, a 25-yard run by Myles Gaskin? Yeah, it was. But sometimes they call it and sometimes they don't. Like, you just can't be holding all that off. And they had 3 personal foul penalties. You can't have it. You just can't have it. You can't win, with 65 more yards in penalties and -1 on the turnovers. It's not going to happen. So, unfortunately, they didn't win. But listen, this is what I was saying to people all week. Like, think about it this way: if Damien Harris doesn't fumble, let's say they give it to Harris 3 straight times, he scores. Okay, they win the game. Mac doesn't complete one more pass the rest of the game. Okay, we're talking about Mac Jones in his first career start led them on a game-winning touchdown drive in the fourth quarter while losing. Like, a game-winning fourth quarter touchdown drive in his first start. I mean, it's unbelievable, right? And so that's the narrative I think that we should be focusing on, is that's essentially what Mac did. And so, it's one of those things that, to me at least, there are good things to come.
Absolutely. For positives, I'm going to echo what Spags said. I had weapons in the passing game just in general. It would look night and day from last year. There was other things that didn't look night and day from last year that I'll get to in a second. But Nelson Aguilar, I was very down on the signing of him in the first place. I was skeptical of his usefulness after he kind of had an injured preseason, didn't really do too much. But him, Kendrick Bourne, like Spags mentioned, Jakobi Meyers is taking that step into solid, at least wide receiver 2 territory. The tight ends kind of had a little bit of ups and downs, but you saw flashes of what they both can provide to this offense. So I just think overall the weapons are night and day from last year, and something to be excited about. For negatives, I had the general offensive philosophy, specifically the second down play calling. That's where it felt a lot like last year. A lot of, we're just going to try to stay exactly on schedule. The second that something happens that gets us off schedule, we're punting the drive. We're done with it. They got a little bit more explosive in the second half as Matt got rolling, which I'm hoping kind of carries over. And again, it's his first start, so you understand treating him with kid gloves a little bit. But he proved in that second half that he really doesn't need it. There's really no need for it. So ideally, you see that kind of progressively take off the way that we hoped it would last year, as Cam got more comfortable, and then obviously everything went off the rails. Never did, and it went backwards, not forwards. So I'd like to see moving forward a more aggressive play callings as the game goes on, or as the season goes on. Excuse me. All right, let's jump into a very quick. We'll fly through this preview for this coming week. So we got the Jets coming in, or we're going to New York, New Jersey to see the Jets. Both 0-1. The Jets lost 19-14 at Carolina. Zach Wilson in his debut was 20 of 37, 258 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, 6 sacks taken, and had a 79.6 QB rating. The defense allowed about 4 yards per carry. Sam Darnold, almost identical stat line to Mac Jones, 24 of 39, 279 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions, 1 sack taken, 102 QB rating. The Jets look like the Jets, and then they lost their best offensive lineman. There's really no excuse to be losing this game.
Yeah, I agree. I think I'm excited to see Wilson too, right? Like, that's a kid who was super fun to watch.
And you were very high on him.
Studying him, yeah, right? I think too, it's all about the system you're in, right? Especially for a guy like him. I mean, it's tough to get much worse. You got to play the Patriots twice, the Bills twice, and the Dolphins twice in terms of, being a quarterback and a young one in a organization like desperate for, a franchise quarterback. But I'm excited to see him kind of against Mac. I think that'll be, a good, I guess, label of how where they both are. And like I said, I think Mac's in a much better situation considering he's in New England. But like you said, this is a game that's it's week 2, but it's almost must win, right? The Saints look really good. I didn't expect them to look that good. They come to town next week, and then you got week 4 versus Tampa, which everybody knows how that game may go, right? So these are the games you got to win. Another divisional game. You dropped one last Sunday. You can't go 0-2 and 0-2 in your division real quick. But like I said, I think this is a game they should win. They will win. I think they'll clean up on some things. The one thing the Patriots pride themselves on is, getting better each day. And I think you'll see a much more, disciplined football team and somebody that they're not going to beat themselves on Sunday. So it could be a close one. It seems like it always is in there, right? It's a tough environment to play. It's their home opener. But I think, when push comes to shove, they'll be able to pull this one out. So,
yeah, they should. I was going to say they should not only win, but win big. This should be a blowout. And again, you're talking about the Jets who aren't very talented to begin with, and now 3/4 of the team is hurt. They got no one healthy over there. They lost Becton. They lost 4 guys on defense. They keep losing players, and they have some weapons on offense. They do, but I don't know. They don't have a ton. If you can't protect them, it's not. And the question with Wilson to me was always, it was the competition, the level of competition. When he played good competition in college, he struggled. And he always had 5 or 6 seconds to throw the ball. He had a ton of time to throw when he was at BYU. So that's the question for me is if you get him on his heels, how is he going to respond? But on the other side, if I'm the Jets, I'm running RPOs on every single play. On every single play, I'm running RPOs. You got the guys to do it in Tevin Coleman and Michael Carter, who can both catch the ball to the backfield and run. And I'm doing that on every single play because the Patriots struggled with that, right? When Tua dropped back, straight back, he got killed. Right. But when Tua was doing, the mesh and the zone reads and all that other stuff, that's where the Patriots struggled to stop them. And so that's what I'd be doing on every single play if I was the Jets. We'll see if they do. I think they have a good coaching staff. So, there's a possibility that they're able to turn around, but right now their team stinks. And like I said, not only do they stink, they have a million injuries. So it's going to be a long season for them. for the Patriots, this is one of those games where they have to win big. I actually expect Mac to throw his first pick in this game. I think the Patriots know that, like the coaching staff knows that, and they're going to open it up a little bit more, and they're going to have him take some more chances. And I wouldn't be surprised to see him maybe not look as good as he did in the first week, just because he's doing more than he did in the first week. And so I wouldn't. I expect him to throw his first pick on Sunday.
And just segueing into the injury report here. So as you mentioned, Jets had a bunch of injuries last week. Marcus Joyner out for the season. Kai Becton's out for at least this game. It's several weeks going forward.
I think he was on IR, so he's out for a bit.
Jamie Sherwood did not practice today. Keelan Cole was limited on the Patriots side. Trent Brown and Kyle Van Noy didn't practice. Yodny Kajust and Ronnie Perkins were limited. Nelson Aguilar, Kyle Duggar, Jalen Mills, all full participants. Guys, you want to do some trivia?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
So typically, for those of you who are watching this week, didn't get to watch last week, trivia will close out the show. Spags, as we mentioned, has to go at a certain point, so I want to make sure we get through it. So second down will be the Pick 6 trivia competition. So here's how it's going to work. Normally, I'll flip to have you guys determine who's going to go first and second. Again, since we're on a little bit of a time crunch, Pat, you'll go first. Spags, you'll go second. Stick with the order on the screen.
Age before beauty. I like it.
Yeah, exactly. So there's going to be 6 rounds. Each of you will have a question in a round. I'll read the question. Once I finish reading, you'll have 30 seconds to answer. I'll start a timer. You won't be able to see the timer, but I'll let you know when you're running out. If you get your question wrong, your opponent can steal. And whoever's leading after 6 rounds will win. And if there's a tie, I have a bonus question lined up.
Got it.
So each category, there's going to be 3 sports categories or 3 categories related to this game. 3 categories that aren't. Could be sports related, could be anything. So there will be a matchup question, Patriots question, Jets question, 3 miscellaneous, we'll call them.
Got it.
Okay, so let me get the first question up. We have a 0-0 score. First category is going to be New England versus New York Jets. This is the history of the matchup. So it could be a question, any sort of question about the history of this matchup. Pat, you are up first. This is for you. 3 Jets quarterbacks have thrown 5 interceptions in a game against New England. Dick Wood, who, by the way, tremendous name. Joe Namath, and which 2000s quarterback? So a quarterback that played for the Jets from 2000 through now, through 5 interceptions in the game. Your time starts now.
Let's go with Vinny Testaverde.
Vinny Testaverde, final answer?
Yeah, sure.
That is incorrect. Spags, you have on steals, you'll get about 10 seconds. So starting now.
I'm going to go with Mark Sanchez because he's a walk-in turnover.
Final answer?
Final answer.
As also incorrect. The correct answer is Chad Pennington.
Oh, man, I almost did Pennington. I'm like, Pennington's too good to have thrown 5 picks against the Patriots. But
I believe it was a 2003 game when that defense was just absurd.
Don't disrespect.
And for notes for this question, that dude's name is Dick Wood. Come on. All right, Spags, your question. Again, New England versus New York Jets matchup history. 2 Patriots defenders have had 3 interceptions in a game against the Jets. Mike Haynes, in which short-term 2009 to 2011 cornerback? Time starts now.
2009 to 2011. They had a terrible secondary around then, so I think it's someone random. I'll go with Ellis Hobbs.
Ellis Hobbs, final answer?
Final answer.
That is incorrect. Pat, with about 10 seconds, your time starts now.
Sean Springs?
Final answer?
Yeah.
That is incorrect. This was a tough one, I'm going to be honest. I didn't expect you guys to get this one. It's Lee Bodden.
Oh.
Keegan's in the chat throwing answers.
Son of a... Of course, Keegan knows.
All right, oh, yeah, that was the other thing. So make sure you guys are both staying on private chat so that you don't see any, so that the chat can play along and throw their answers in. Keegan, by the way, the week 1 winner of
course.
I'm not surprised.
Nail biter win over Brian. Brian had a furious comeback attempt. All right, so that is round 1. No one gets a point. So let me just update the scoreboard here, and we'll move on to round 2. Category is movies.
Terrible display. Awful display by us.
So, Pat.
Yes.
You are up first. And I will prep you guys. These are also difficult questions. I stole this one from my test show with Brian and Keegan, and neither of them got these. So,
okay.
Movies. Frances McDormand won the 2021 Oscar for Best Actress in a Leading Role, which was her third win in the category. That places her second all-time behind which actress whose 4 wins span 6 decades, from the 1930s to 1980s. So who has the most Best Actress in a Leading Role wins? You have 30 seconds.
Audrey Hepburn?
Final answer?
Yeah, final answer.
That is incorrect. Spags.
I am.
Very
Pat knows me. I do not watch movies, so I'm gonna get smoked in this one. So I'm gonna think of someone random. The first person that comes to my head. Let's go with Joe Pesci, huh?
All right.
It's a woman.
Oh, it's actress. It's actress.
It is
Okay,
actress.
all right. Actress.
You ran out of time, so final guess.
Whatever. Yeah. Try. I have no idea. I don't watch.
Who's the
movies.
girl from Sound of Music?
Spags. That was. Or sorry, Pat. That was tough. It is Katharine Hepburn. That was a great guess.
Oh,
Katharine Hepburn. Fun fact: I just had to look it up to make sure they're not the same person. They're not even related. Not even
So
related.
weird.
Just
Josephine
two
Pesci.
old-timey
That's what I
actors.
meant.
So Katharine Hepburn is the one in. She's the one in Loverly. What the hell's the name of that? It's the musical, right?
She won for Morning Glory, Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, The Lion in Winter, and On Golden Pond.
Yes.
Frances McDormand won for Nomadland this year, 3 billboards outside Ebbing, Missouri, and then, of course, Fargo.
Yeah.
All right, Spags, chance to take the lead, still a 0-0 game. Set the timer here.
Give me a layup here. Come on.
Similar question. Anthony Hopkins won the 2021 Oscar for Best Actor in a Leading Role, his second win in the category, tied for second all-time behind which actor whose 3 wins span 3 decades, the 90s to the 2010s. So which actor has 3 Best Actor in a Leading Role?
Bro.
Time starts now.
Will Ferrell. There you go.
Final answer?
Yeah, I have no idea, man.
That's incorrect.
Dude, you
Pat
wanted
for
the
the
layup.
steal.
You got a layup, bro. Tom Hanks.
Yeah,
answer?
I was gonna say him or Vince Vaughn, someone like that.
Final answer?
I don't know, man. I don't watch movies.
Yes.
That's incorrect.
Really?
It is Daniel Day-Lewis.
Oh, that freaking guy, Daniel Day-Lewis.
Hopkins
The
won for
problem
Silence
is
of the Lambs.
Daniel
and The
Day-Lewis's
Father.
movies are all boring. Like I don't like
Yeah,
any of them.
You
know what I
He
mean?
won for My Left Foot, There Will Be Blood, and Lincoln.
No, terrible movies. All 3 of them.
All right. Still 0-0. Brian had 0 points until like round 5, and then he took 3 straight points and made it a 4-3 game before Keegan closed it out on Jeff. So,
All right.
round 3, we have the Jets. Round 3, you have the Jets. There's still a 0-0 game. Let me reset the timer here. Pat, this one's for you.
Yep.
In 2018, this former Cleveland Browns running back ran for a Jets team record 218 rushing yards against Denver. He was 25 years old when he did it, but he has not played since that season. Who is he? Time starts now.
Cleveland running back. He's 25 in 2018. He played for Cleveland.
Got 15 seconds.
Played for the Jets. I have no idea. Peyton Hillis.
Final answer?
Yeah.
That is incorrect.
I know.
Bags for 10 seconds.
I was honestly gonna say Peyton Hillis. I will go with.
We have correct answers in the chat.
I'm not
We
looking.
got,
I'm
5
not cheating.
seconds.
No idea. Yeah, I
Pass?
lost it. Yeah,
All right.
I passed.
It is Isaiah Crowell.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I think
That's
it
a
was
good one, Ryan.
3 seasons with the Browns. Went to the Jets for a season, had a decent season, but 26 years old, out of the league.
Did Peyton Hillis ever play for the Jets? No, right?
No, I think he went
That's what I was-
Browns to. Like,
I know he
Chiefs or
bounced
something.
around a little bit after he was on the cover of
I
Madden
don't
and all
know,
went
I don't know
downhill.
why I thought he played for the Jets.
All right, again, Spags for a chance to take the lead. In 2014, this big name wide receiver signing had an NFL era, so not the AFL, team record 221 receiving yards against Miami. Played 3 seasons in New York before finishing his career with 1 season in Tennessee. Who is he? Time starts now.
Braylon Edwards?
Final answer?
Yes.
That is incorrect. Pat, same question to you. You have 10 seconds starting now.
Braylon Edwards is a good one. That was a good guess. Big name wide receiver signing. Who the hell did they sign?
Gonna need an answer in 3.
Yeah, no, I got nothing.
No, it's Eric Decker.
Oh,
Just a little behind the scenes here. There's a lot that I didn't realize how difficult it was going to be to try and balance these questions, because I initially wrote this the same way that I wrote that first one. But I think if I included that he came from the Broncos off like a career season, it would have been a little too easy for you guys. So little fun or a little difficulty goes into trying to balance these.
Peek behind the curtain there.
Yeah. All right, let's get the score back up here. So we're halfway through. No one's got the right answer.
This is bad.
Very bad. Good
guess. These questions
for
were tough.
6
I
right
don't
now.
think I copied the non-sports ones from my test show, and I don't think that Brian or Keegan got any of them right. So
you just so you were like, oh, these are impossible, so we're going to give them to Pat and Spags instead.
Yep,
Make us look bad.
Your chance to be smarter. All right, New England geography.
Oh God.
New England guys here. We're gonna see what you know. So these are gonna be multiple choice questions. I'm gonna give you a little bit longer. It'll probably be about 45 seconds here.
Okay. Yep.
So as of 2020, rank these New England cities from largest population to smallest. So you have 4 answers here. Yep, you have 4 answers, largest to smallest. Manchester, New Hampshire, Warwick, Rhode Island, Waterbury, Connecticut, and Lowell, Massachusetts.
Jesus Christ, dude. This is the most random question of all time. All right, I'm going to go with Lowell. All right, I'm going to go Lowell, Waterbury, Manchester, Warwick.
Final answer?
Yes, final answer, yes.
That is incorrect. Spags. Give you about 30 seconds here.
Waterbury, Manchester, Vegas, Lowell, and then Warwick.
Final answer?
Yep.
That is also incorrect. Correct answer is Manchester, Lowell, Waterbury, Warwick. And I'll give you some population numbers.
Oh, it was so close, dude. If I had just thrown Manchester in the first. I had Lowell, Waterbury, and Warwick right. I just couldn't.
Spags, similar question. As of 2019, because for some reason I couldn't find updated numbers, rank these New England states from largest population to smallest states. Rhode Island, Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont. Time starts now.
I'll go Maine, New Hampshire, Rhode Island, Vermont.
Final answer?
No, switch Vermont and Rhode Island.
So read them all for me again.
Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, Rhode Island.
That is incorrect. Pat, you have 30 seconds.
I'm sorry. I'm getting interrupted here. What did Spags say?
Spags said, Spags said Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, Rhode Island.
Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, Rhode Island, and it was wrong. Okay.
I'm going to give you 20 seconds now.
Okay, so I'm going to go with Rhode Island, New Hampshire, Maine, Vermont.
Final answer?
Yep.
That's incorrect. I'm going to be honest. Rhode Island first is a wild choice.
It is.
New Hampshire, Maine, Rhode Island, Vermont.
Okay.
That
was close.
Here. So for the cities, Manchester has about 112,000. Lowell has about 111,000. It's very close there. Waterbury has 107,000, and Warwick only has 81,000. For the states here, New Hampshire has about 1.35 million. Maine has about 1.34 million. Rhode Island has about 1 million, and Vermont only has about 600,000. All right, still 0-0, entering round 5. So if this were against Keegan, he'd already have the win or at least a tie locked up. But it's still very much tied, anyone's game, and we have the Patriots in round 5 here. This is your chance to get back on the board.
Like, well, in 1962, the third leading scorer on the team was this guy. But I would like you to name his oldest child's dog's name. That's the question.
All right. Pat.
Fido is the answer.
Pat.
Yes.
That's correct. All right, here we go. Entering the 2021 season, Hunter Henry has had one career game with 100 yards. This game was also his only career multi-touchdown game. Which AFC North team did he do it against?
I got a 1 in a 4 shot. I'm gonna say the Steelers.
Final answer.
Yep.
Pat, you are on the board. It is the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Woo!
I'll update the score here real quick. Pat is on the board, and he puts the pressure on Spags to compete here, to keep pace. Entering question number 5. Spags, sorry. Entering the 2021 season, Jonnu Smith has 2 career multi-touchdown games. One came against divisional rival Jacksonville. The other came against which AFC East team? Time starts now.
I'm going to say Miami.
Final answer?
Yes.
That is incorrect. Pat.
Is it Buffalo?
For a 2-0 lead. I'm not going to answer. Pat, for a 2-0 lead. 10 seconds now. Starting.
Let's say the Jets.
Final answer?
Yep.
Spags should have second guessed yourself. It is Buffalo. It is the Buffalo Bills. I believe that was last year. Okay, so here's where we're at. Entering the final round, Pat has a singular point, but Spags has 0 points.
That's it right here. This is the game. I can win
Pat,
right here.
Pat, you get this right. You win. You get it wrong. Pat Spags steals. He'll have a chance to win. Category is NFL name history.
Oh, God.
So for 30 seconds and a chance to clinch the win, Pat, which current NFL team was originally called the Decatur Staleys?
Oh my God, dude! Where the hell is Decatur? Why the hell would I know that? Let's see. How about the Cleveland Browns?
Okay, that is incorrect. Spags, for a chance to tie the game, 10 seconds on the clock. Which current NFL team was originally called the Decatur Staleys? 5 seconds.
New York Jets, just because maybe you picked them because we're on Jets week.
That is incorrect. It is the Chicago Bears.
I almost said the Bears too. I knew it was one of those stupid old teams. You know what I mean?
We got a few right answers in the chat there. So I feel pretty decent about that one. Spags. So here's where we're at. Spags gets this right. We go to overtime.
This is just you just wanted to dunk on me for 40 minutes just to test my knowledge.
It's the opposite of what we had last week. Last week, Keegan was going into the final question, needing it correct to seal the win. Otherwise, Brian had a chance to tie. And Brian knew the answer, but Keegan got it. Here, Spags needs the correct answer to go to overtime. Otherwise, Pat will have a chance to just pad his stats in garbage time. Okay, Spags, 2-4 overtime. Which current NFL team was originally called the Portsmouth Spartans? 30 seconds starting now.
So stupid. Oh, goodness.
Is that Portsmouth, New Hampshire?
I cannot tell you that. 15 seconds.
Let's go with the...
Need an answer now.
Bengals, Cincinnati Bengals. I don't know. First team that came to my head.
Final answer?
Yeah.
Well, it's the final answer because you don't have time. That is incorrect. Pat, you clinched the runaway win here.
Hey, was it
win?
Was it the Giants by any chance?
It was not the Giants. It was the Detroit Lions.
Oh my God, dude.
Final score: Pat 1, Spags 0. So not necessarily the strongest, opening showing, but both these guys will be back again.
Yeah, keep them easy next time, will you?
Yeah, we'll ramp down the difficulty a little. We'll see. Pat moves to 1-0. Keegan's also 1-0. Brian moves to Spags moves to 0-1, along with Brian, who's 0-1. The four of them, I think, once we reach playoff time, we're gonna have a little tournament between the four of them. So we're gonna be tracking their standings throughout the year. Get a little seeding going.
Soccer score.
Baseball type.
Anyone had the under? They're a rich man.
Clean sheets.
I'd like to point out that Murph knew both the Bears and the Lions.
He did.
It just proves how old he is.
Absolutely. Pat, congrats! You're 1-0. Maybe we'll get you and Keegan going head to head next time. Battle.
Oh Christ!
We'll see.
Make it so I can answer some questions.
And now we'll try to get through segments quickly. Again, normally trivia would wrap up the show just to make sure that we had time to Spags. We're going to move on, though, to our segments. So third down here, and we're going to have the segments. Spags, if it gets to the point you got to go, you can just drop out. Get my notes up here. Scroll back up. Okay, so we're going to play Who Am I? We played this last week. This typically is going to roll in from the preview, and it's kind of going to be like our little bit of a deeper dive in the preview. So I'm going to read off players that are either going to be on the Patriots or the Jets. It's also like a little trivia warm-up that you didn't get to do too. I'm going to name off players from either the Patriots or the Jets. I'll give you a little description of who they are. You're going to guess who they are. We'll find out, and we'll talk about why I think they're going to be key players in this.
All right, cool. I'll do like 2, and then I'll bounce. That's cool.
Sounds good.
Perfect.
Okay. I pulled up the wrong thing. Okay, here we go. I had a career high 984 yards in 2020. And am already 40% of the way to my 2020 touchdown total after 1 week of 2021. Who am I?
Corey Davis.
It is Corey Davis. So Corey Davis went 5 of 97 in his Jets debut.
I was going to say Aguilar, to be honest. Yeah.
Signed a 3-year, $37.5 million contract in the offseason. He was a name that a lot of people threw out for the Patriots throughout all of last year. I think he's going to be obviously, he's the wide receiver one. Any wide receiver one is a key player in today's game. But I think it's especially key because 1, he's coming off career. 2, he had a strong showing. He was the only person that Zach Wilson really looked comfortable throwing the ball to. And like we were talking about right before Spags came on, J.C. Jackson still kind of has to prove if he's like that shutdown cornerback 1 or if he's just a good cornerback 2, okay cornerback 1. Corey Davis is that kind of similar tier wide receiver that JC is at corner. So you kind of hope to see that he is going to be able to have a strong showing here. And if he doesn't, you might start to worry about the next 4 to however many weeks that Stephon Gilmore is going to be out.
Yeah, I'm excited. I think he's a player that's, extremely underrated, right? Because he was in Tennessee. They had a ton of, they have Henry and they had Jonnu for a bit, right? Then A.J. Brown came on. So, and now he's in New York, right? Who's obviously – being in New York, I think it's a kind of a low market team. Obviously, they're kind of at the bottom of the division, but he's a good player. I mean, he can make plays with the ball in his hand. He's good outside the numbers. I'm excited for that matchup. He had a good week 1 too.
Oh, stupid Tennessee ruined my plans. I mean, he was a guy that had toasted Gilmore a few times, but had never really done anything over like the course of a season because they just didn't throw him the ball. And then last year they threw it to him a ton. He had almost 1,000 yards, and it was like, well, going into last season, my thought process was if he has a similar season at what he's had this first 3 years, he'll be a low-price free agent. The Patriots will hop on, and he'll be good for them, right? And then, of course, he goes out and does well and then gets paid, top of the market money. So just kind of is what it is. But I think he's a great receiver. I like him a lot.
He was someone that we were talking about, entering the offseason. Do you want to go for a tight end like Jonnu or Hunter Henry, or would you rather get that kind of second-tier wide receiver?
Right.
And when we saw, at least me personally, when we saw what they gave Nelson Aguilar day 1, just to see what Corey Davis ended up getting either later that night or the next day, I was kind of pissed. I love Corey Davis. I think he would have been a great fit here. Obviously, Aguilar's looking like he's working out great, so everything's all good. But it'll be interesting to see how he does with J.C. Jackson. You would expect to be primarily lined up against him. Let's get to the next one before Spags has to bounce. My 96 game started streak ended week 1 of this season, but I'm going to start a new streak in week 2. Who am I?
Started streak.
Started 96 consecutive games until week 1 of this season, but he's going to be starting this game week 2.
96 consecutive games. So did he play week 1?
He did play week 1.
So he played but didn't start.
Yeah.
Lawrence Guy?
That's incorrect.
No,
Pat, do you have a guess? Again, this is trivia, so it's not as formal. But.
No. Yeah. It's probably like an offensive lineman.
It is an offensive lineman.
Yeah. Was it Karras?
It was not. It is another Jet. It is the Mekhi Becton replacement, Morgan Moses.
Oh, yeah. And Belichick talked about him today. It's funny you say that. Obviously said they have a ton of depth at that spot. He's been a starting tackle for a while, and that's their replacement, kind of their swing tackle there. So I think that's a strength for them. Good player.
Yeah, Bill Belichick, timing is funny because that is really the one position that they are kind of deep at. If they're fully healthy at wide receiver, they have like a deep collection of mediocre guys. Tackle, Mekhi Becton's a beast if he can stay healthy. He's had injuries in both of his first 2 seasons now, which is unfortunate for him. But Morgan Moses is about as good of a backup tackle as you're going to get in the league. Yep. Like the captain says here, 96 games. That's like 6 straight seasons, something like that, starting all 16 games before this for Washington. Had a couple of years where he was like a borderline Pro Bowl player, at least, in terms of media narrative. I'm sure someone like Brendan Thorne, who's really doing that work, could say a little better. I don't know exactly how he did. I was trying to find some pressure numbers from the snaps that he played. I wasn't able to find them. So if someone has them and wants to put them in the chat real quick, that'd be great. By the way, Murph got that one right as well. And thank you for Spags for hanging out. It's going to be interesting to see, is he going to be able to at least handle his role there, or is that going to be a spot that the Patriots are able to take advantage of? The Jets offensive line is already a little weak. He's going to be playing next to the rookie Elijah Vera Tucker, who, we were fans of pre-draft, potentially coming to New England if they were going to go the boring route at 16, 15. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. Ideally the Patriots defensive line is a strength of the team. The Jets offensive line is a weakness. It could have gotten weaker, could be, completely solid. So we'll see how it goes. One more for you, Pat. I tied a career high in reception touchdowns last year with 8 and set a career high in yards per target. Who am I? Spags mentioned him earlier in this segment.
Yeah, I was gonna say Aguilar.
It is Aguilar.
Yeah.
So we can talk. We've already talked about him a little bit in the recap. He impressed me week 1. He was there second, or he was third in targets. He had the second most targets. James White and Jakobi Meyers were tied with 9. He had 7, 5 receptions, which was I believe third, or he might have led the team there. My notes.
I think he was tied with. Did Jonnu have 5, or he might?
I think
no. Henry, I think, had 4, and he had 5.
Henry had 3. He had 5. I think Jakobi and James White each had 6. I think is what it was.
Oh, maybe you're right. Okay.
And then I should have had better notes there. He was first in yards and caught Mac's first career touchdown, of course.
By the way, Cody's 100% right. Like, it was so weird. He was 15, and I was like, "Ooh,
he caught
Nikhil's killing it." And I'm like, "Wait a second,
he caught the first pass of the game too." And I was like, "Oh, that's cool." Nikhil Harris gets Mac Jones' first career reception, and I went to text that to people, and I was like, "Wait a minute, Nikhil's on IR. Who the hell is that?"
Yeah,
it was weird. But yeah, he excited me week 1. Not Mac Jones was the number 1 excitement takeaway, but he was probably number 3 for me. Matt Judon was 2. He was probably number 3 for me. Adrian Phillips up there as well. We talked about, in the negatives from last week, I want to see them kind of open up that offense more. That's been a big talking point this week. See if they're going to start handing the reins now that Mac looks already so comfortable.
Yeah.
He's probably the biggest beneficiary, him and the tight ends, if they really start to open up the offense, because he is their deep play threat.
Yeah,
so if they're willing to start taking some shots, and if it's not like a seam up the middle to Jonnu or Hunter Henry, it's going to be on the outside to him more likely than not.
But I think Myers benefits from that a lot too, because he's not going to be going deep, but it's going to open up everything else underneath. Absolutely. And Myers is kind of that underneath guy, So, absolutely. By the way, Murph mentioned something about J.J. Taylor. I don't know if you talked about this already or you wanted to talk about it, but I would be shocked if Ramondre isn't a healthy scratch and JJ isn't in this week. I didn't understand why JJ wasn't in last week to begin with. I feel like he's a better all-around back right now than Ramondre is, because he's a better pass blocker. He's better running the ball. Well, I don't know about running the ball, but he's certainly better receiving the ball to the backfield. So I thought JJ should have been playing last week anyways. And after Ramondre put the ball on the ground and listen, we can argue about whether it was a fumble or not. That's irrelevant. Like, whether ever put the ball on the ground.
The ball came out at the point where he fumbled it. It wasn't like he was down.
Correct.
Let the ball roll. Correct. Like, he fumbled it. He just happened to have a thigh down for like a fraction of a second first.
Right. So, to me, I think JJ should be the number 2 back. And again, I think he can be kind of that Rex Burkhead type player this year, where he can be kind of spell. He's
kind of the backup in both throws. He comes in, you don't know if they're running it or passing it, because he can do both. And you give him 15 to 20 snaps, 5 to 8 touches a game, keep him fresh, and he kind of provides that spark when the offense.
Yeah, and Ramondre just pass blocking too. Like Dark Blue Go mentioned, he had a bad day blocking. He did. I mean, the penalty.
His last snap was getting rolled over by Landon Roberts.
Right.
Should have been sacked. That would have ended the drive.
Correct. Yeah,
it
turned into be whatever penalty, but
ticky tack. Unnecessary roughness or whatever.
Right. Exactly.
So it'll be interesting to see how they go forward. Let's jump into the next segment. We're going to do Would You Rather.
Okay.
So, everyone knows Would You Rathers. These aren't like related to the game, just kind of more generic ones.
Sure.
So, would you rather you have a trip to the finals on the line in either sport, you're on the road, and in both sports you're down by 2. Would you rather be the kicker attempting a 30-yard field goal as time expires, or 2 seconds left in the clock, be at the line in an NBA game attempting 3 free throws? You have more confidence about
so is this
30-yard field goal or attempting 3 free throws?
Is this me personally with my skills?
You personally.
Yeah, I could. You could give me 1,000 tries. I probably wouldn't hit a 30-yard field goal ever. So I would absolutely attempt 3 free throws, and I'd probably make 2 of them. I don't know if I'd hit all 3, but I'd probably make 2 of them.
Force overtime. There you go.
Yep.
So that was kind of the tough spot for me because you have a little wiggle room in the basketball question here because you hit 2 out of 3, you're going to at least to overtime. In the NFL, kicking the field goal, it's all or nothing. You're either winning the game or losing the game.
Correct.
There's no tying it up there.
Yep.
I have an okay leg. And I'm bad at basketball, especially the shooting part of basketball. So I'd probably take the 30-yard field goal and just pray that I can just squeak it over.
I'm a baller. Yeah. So that's
Pass from Allen Iverson. Everyone
ball
knows
is life. That's true. Yeah. See, everyone knows that.
He is yet to come talk about it, which is kind of a tough look for him. But Allen Iverson, if you're watching, come on Pat's pulpit.
Yep.
Admit that you got pocket picked by Pat. All right, next one. This one's going to be you're going to be placing abilities onto current Patriots players.
Okay.
Would you rather have Jakobi Meyers get Randy Moss's deep ball and contested catch abilities? So specifically like the mossing ability.
Yeah.
Is what we're going for here, not the overall Randy Moss, just that. Or Damien Harris gets Barry Sanders' elusiveness.
That's a great question. I think without a doubt, Dark Book said too, I think without a doubt it's Damien Harris because Myers doesn't have the speed that Moss had. So him having the deep ball contested catch abilities, it just doesn't, not that it doesn't matter as much, but he just does like, Moss is like, you just throw it up and it'll be a touchdown because he just run past everyone. And yeah, of course, if you were in his face, fine. But like, he just didn't have that. Like, whereas Barry was just like, you just couldn't touch him. You just couldn't touch him. He would just shake, he'd shake everyone. So I agree with that. By the way, Murph said he'd be the snapper or maybe the holder on the field goal attempt. I was the long snapper in high school and freshman year. Well, I was the backup long snapper in college, but nevertheless, I was the backup long snapper as a freshman in college. So I would have been the snapper instead of the field goal kicker. But nevertheless, Damien Harris for sure. I think
I have more faith in myself kicking the field goal than I do successfully placing it down in the way that the kicker would like. Long
snapping, holding. Hell no.
Yeah, I did a little bit of long snapping too, so I could probably get by on that one. But yeah, I think I'd rather be the kicker than the holder in that situation. I would definitely Tony Romo it. Yeah. For this one, I've gone back and forth ever since I wrote this. I think I lean Jakobi Meyers just because you mentioned he doesn't have that speed, but you kind of end up in like a DeAndre Hopkins situation because he's already such a precise route runner. Yeah. If you can buy him the time to get downfield, you just let him go win it. Like Randy Moss is, it's him or Calvin Johnson, best of all time, going up and winning balls like that.
Right. So, that's a good point.
You give him that, you kind of, even though he doesn't have the speed to be like a Nelson Aguilar deep threat, you now have like a top 5 to 10 wide receiver in football.
Yeah, but hear me out. Imagine Barry Sanders.
Absolutely, that's what
with a good offensive line.
Yeah. Damien Harris aside. I mean, Damien Harris is, I don't know his exact height. He's 6'1", probably. A good 3, 4, 5 inches taller than Barry Sanders, much heavier, much more of a power runner. So you give him that elusiveness. He's probably the best running back in football. Yep. But that's where it kind of comes down to wide receiver value, running back value. Damien Harris is already good enough as he is. So is Jakobi Meyers. But Jakobi Meyers in that elevated level probably unlocks the offense. Damien Harris probably just unlocks Damien Harris more.
That's a good point.
Kind of my thought there. All right, last one. I teased this one a little bit with Spags. It's a bummer he didn't get to reach this point. I'm going to kind of try and set the mood for how this season's going to go. Okay.
Oh God.
So this is related to the 2021 Patriots season.
Okay.
Would you rather the Patriots finish 5-12, but Mac is like clearly the best rookie quarterback? He's entering that top tier young rookie quarterbacks overall. Think Justin Herbert type rookie season.
Yep.
Like he's he might not quite be Pat Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, immediate coming MVP winner, but he's like, oh yeah, you've got your quarterback for the next 20 years. He's going to be in MVP conversations. He's going to be able to make your team elevate your team to the next level. Yep. Or would you rather see 12-5, but it's a lot of defense, run game, 14-10 wins, you win the division, but you're still like, okay, Mac shows promise, but we still don't exactly know what we have in him long term.
Okay, so in this fictional situation, you lose the first playoff game?
Yeah, let's go with that because I don't think realistically they're a Super Bowl contender here. So
okay, so you lose.
These are I don't think they go 5-12 or these are about a game or two above what I think their realistic outcomes are.
Yeah, no, I got you. So. I got you. So I wouldn't necessarily want either of these, but I would say the 5-12 one would make more sense in this scenario, simply because if you don't learn much, I mean, I think we've already learned a lot about them in the first week. But let's just say, right? Straight Sam. So I just think, in my opinion, like the most important thing for the future of this franchise is Mac Jones. And if you know that he's going to be one of the best young quarterbacks in the league, that's a huge thing. And you also then get a very good draft pick next year to get Chris Olave,
right,
or somebody along those lines where now you can take the offense to the next level, or you get that pick and then you draft Stingley, and now you have a lockdown corner on the other side of J.C. Jackson or Gilmore, whoever's here. So I would say 5-12. The 12-5 is tempting, but again, that's with the caveat that you lose in the first round of the playoffs. To get there with defense and run game and never find anything about Mac, and then Mac kind of plays crappy in the playoffs, it's kind of like, that's not ideal. So
off-season questions.
I would say 5-12 in this scenario.
And this really boils down to do you value team success or player development this year, right? And to me, it's no question player development. I don't think they have a prayer really at a Super Bowl run. Even if I think that they're a playoff team, I think there's maybe six. There's like three AFC teams, probably two now that the Ravens are kind of dying all over the place, that I would pick as like realistic Super Bowl contenders.
Yeah.
So even if I hope they make the playoffs. Obviously, the ideal situation is like 11-6, and Mac looks great. Like Mac carries them to that 11-6, 12-5. But this season is all about figuring out, or not necessarily figuring out, because it could take a year to develop. But if you come out of year one knowing you have 4 more years of elite young quarterback play, that's everything that you need. They have. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
They signed most of these massive free agent contracts, not like super long term absurd where they can't get out of it. So if anything doesn't work out, you can move on. But they also signed them for to be really competitive. We were talking about it in the offseason. This was really like 2021 is a gel year. 2022 is a year you hope to start being a contender again.
Right.
So I mean, it's the same thing. It's the same concept. You have the positives that come away from this year. You have next year. If just to pick on, I'm not saying this will happen or I think this is going to happen. Jalen Mills is a disaster. You can move on and look to replace him next year because you're still going to have cap space. And now you have 4 years of that rookie contract, knowing that Mac's your guy, knowing that you're not trying to figure out if you have to hide him or if you can build around him.
Right.
And then you go back at it next year.
Yeah, and so Murph is right that the mindset's to win.
Absolutely.
In the
it's completely fair.
I'm sorry, I can't do that. Mindset's to win. We got to do it in the Keep Lead voice. But the thing for me is that yes, I want to win, obviously, and for me, if you go 12-5, that's fine. And if the run game and defense is the focal point, that's fine. But I also want to walk out of the season knowing that Mac is good enough. And again, that doesn't mean he has to win. That doesn't mean he has to be dominant. But games like Sunday are what we have to see, right? I don't want to be, in a situation where he's throwing 16, 17 interceptions and they're winning despite him, right? I want him to be a big part of the reason that they're winning. He doesn't have to carry them, right? He doesn't have to carry them. So to me, it's a mix. I don't want either of these things to happen. But it's really a mix for me. And I think we're closer to the second one happening than we are the first one, I think. I might be wrong about that, but I feel like this team is too good to go 5-12. I just think they're too talented to do that.
Absolutely.
And so, but again, I think that in order for them to be successful, you're going to have to at least see some stuff from Mac, and that's all I'm really looking for. Like, let's see what he can do, and let's see if he's good enough. He doesn't have to be the best quarterback, the best young quarterback in the league or whatever. Maybe not even the best rookie quarterback, but he has to at least show us that he is deserving of that spot and like can be the quarterback of the future here. Maybe he's not. I mean, the thing that scares me the most about Mac is that he looks like Tom Brady. He looks and plays like Tom Brady. That's terrifying because like Tom Brady is the greatest player of all time. So like you just like it's one of those things where it's like, well, how do you compare him to that guy? You know, and yeah, okay, we compare him to the 01 Tom Brady. That's
especially
fine.
in a league that's getting faster and more athletic at quarterback.
Right. And so it's, you know, it's hard. And Murph is right that the D looked old and slow the first game. They're not old and slow though. So like I don't think that's what will bore out as we go. But they definitely looked old and slow, but they're not. They'll be fine. And realistically, they gave up 17 points. Like, they were bad situationally.
They gave up 2 touchdowns on scripted opening drives, and then they gave up basically nothing outside of that.
Right.
The Dolphins walked away with a field goal after Tua had his only like high level throw of the game, the one that you complained about JC Jackson about on Twitter. We went back and forth a little bit.
Yep.
That high point, 3rd and long, 30 yards to Devontae Parker right down the sideline. Parker makes a great play on it. That propelled them to a field goal drive, and that outside of scripted opening drives, that's all they got.
Right. No, and
I came away very positive overall with the defense. A little concerned about the defensive backs until Gilmore is back. Overall, pretty positive.
Justifiably so. Yeah, and we'll see. I mean, you know, we'll see what happens. I just think this team is going to be good, and I think they're going to be fun to watch defensively and offensively. And listen, are there things that the Jets can do with Zach Wilson that the Patriots can't do with Mac Jones? Absolutely, for sure. But this offense isn't built like that. And frankly, if you have the offensive weapons, you don't need to be able to do that. You don't need to run the read option. You just don't. Like, you don't need to run that. Like, yeah, it's nice to have, but if you have enough guys that can catch the ball and run after the catch and everything else, you don't need that if you can have a guy with precision. And Tom Brady showed that again last year. Showed that again. You don't need it. You don't. Like, you just don't have to have that. If you can make those great throws and be smarter than everyone else, you win anyways. And so, you know, that to me is the issue. So,
and the realistic outcome of the season, most probable outcome of the season is probably they go right around 500, 9-8, 8-9. Mac looks good. Mac doesn't look like the best young rookie quarterback, an elite. I don't think he has a chance of becoming like an elite young rookie quarterback unless we see that arm strength tick up, which honestly we did week 1 compared to like preseason, compared to training camp, compared to college. So hopefully as he gets, Spags mentioned this earlier, as he gets into an NFL strength program, right, you know, that arm strength kind of ticks up, because it's not like he has a bad arm. He just has a very mediocre arm. So if that ticks up even to just above average, that unlocks another level of what his ceiling can be.
Right.
So you're hoping to see that, but the most important part of this season is hopefully seeing Mac, establish yourself as the guy for the future.
Yeah.
Let's wrap this up. We got one more segment. Let's get out of here. We got another new segment. It's going to be called the Bag of the Week.
All right.
So here's how it's going to work. This rough timing to have to introduce this because Marshawn Lattimore, honorable mention, literally got a bag this week.
Sure did.
5 years, $90 million. He is not eligible for this because he got a bag. So the Bag of the Week segment is going to go to a player around the league who is up for new money and had a standout performance. So this is a guy who's earning his bag this week. Honorable mention here, Adrian Phillips on the Patriots in the final year of his contract was, if not their best defensive player, their second best. I think it was him and Judon were their 2 best defensive players. Was just living in the backfield. We'll go with Gucci. I like Gucci. So he'd be the honorable mention, but league-wide, I mean, there was really one answer for this, in my opinion. It was former Patriots friend Chandler Jones. Yeah. Chandler Jones in the final year of his contract wanted an extension. Yeah, wanted an extension coming to the season. Didn't get it. Playing the Titans, who were expected to have just an explosive offense, Brian and Julio Jones, have a historically solid offensive line that was expected to be solid again. And all he did was 5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, 6 tackles. 4 of them were tackles for loss in a week 1 demolition. Probably the most surprising week 1 result against Tennessee. And it was 38-14 Cardinals, something like that.
Yeah, I think maybe the Saints may have been a little bit more surprising, but those 2 were the 2 games where you were like, what the heck happened? Yeah.
So that's just a quick segment, just a bag of the week. Shout out Chandler Jones. Go get your bag.
It's a good one.
So we'll get out of here. So that was 3rd down, and now we are on the out. So Pat, give me a prediction for Patriots Jets.
62 to sit. No, that's too much. I'm gonna say 20. Oh, I like dark blue gold. There you go. 196-3. I'm gonna say 28-14.
28-14. Okay.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna say.
I'm gonna go 23-13. Yeah, I don't mind 20. I'm gonna go pretty similar. I'm gonna say 24-10 with a defensive touchdown. So
yeah, I think that
offense
might be
puts up
defensive.
17 again, or put up 16 technically, but about same range, couple touchdowns, field goal, defensive touchdown. Jets struggle defensively or offensively. Sorry.
Yeah, 3-2.
All right, Pat. Thanks for hanging out. We'll have you
Yep.
back on. Congrats on your 1-0 start in the Pick Six Trivia competition.
Appreciate it.
We'll get you. We'll probably try to get you against either Brian or Keegan.
It was fitting that it was 1-0 because I went 1-0.
Absolutely.
So
we'll try to ease up the questions a little bit next time, so maybe we can get some more points on the board there. Guys, thank you for watching. We'll be back next Wednesday at 7. Nothing locked in, but I think we're going to have Mark Schofield and Brian Phillips.
don't forget tomorrow night as well. Tomorrow night, 7:30, Patriot Nation podcast. Me, Keegan, Spags, and the senator Phil Perry. So
absolutely,
tune in tomorrow night at 7:30.
And all of you who are in here have to be already following Pat, but he's @plane_Pats on Twitter if you're not, and Spags is Ryan_Spags. Thank you guys, and have a great night. We'll see you next week.